Welcome. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, the president of Trelevan, which is a retreat and learning center located on a sheep farm here in Addison County, and also work part-time as the Addison County Farm to Community Mentor for NOFA, the Northeast Organic Farming Association. And we've been exploring different ways of farming, the people who do it here in our county, and I'm thrilled today to have a chance to talk more in depth with Jennifer Blackwell, who, along with her husband Spencer, is the co-owner of Elmer Farm, which is right here in Middlebury. So, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Coming. Well, I'm thrilled, and I appreciate that you were up last night with a kid, and you came anyway. So maybe we could start by you just talking a little bit about how did you come to be farming here in Middlebury?
Yeah, that's a great question. Spencer and I, we both grew up in Vermont, but neither one of us grew up on farms. Spencer's family had a large garden, and they had chickens, and they lived in a more rural place. I grew up in St. Albans, kind of more in town. We both, after college, kind of pursued farming as a job and on our own paths. And we met in 2003, I think, in the Intervale in Burlington, farming. I was farming at the Intervale Community Farm, and Spencer had his own business at the time, and that's where we met about 12 or 13 years ago. And we met, and we were both farming separately. We farmed a little bit together, and we heard about an opportunity with the Middlebury area, the Vermont Land Trust in Middlebury to purchase the Elmer Farm through the Farmland Access Program. So through that program, we wrote a business plan, and we submitted our proposal to be a potential buyer. And there was a lot of support in Middlebury that helped the Land Trust kind of navigate and decide on and select a buyer. And so we were very lucky to be chosen as the buyer. So we purchased the Elmer Farm in 2006, fall of 2006. It'll be 16 years 10 years this fall.
Wow. Had it been a dairy farm before, or?
The history is, I think it had been quite a long time ago, but most recently, for the previous 45 years before we started farming there, it had been leased to a neighboring dairy. The Elmer family has been on that property since the late 1700s, I believe. We are the first not Elmer Farm people, or not Elmer Farm family to live there. So that's where the name came from. We named it after the family who had settled there and had always lived there. And it's been nice. It's been a nice way to connect with the community, because people, have many stories to share of Dorothy, who lived in that home. So her family had farmed, further back, but most recently it had been leased to a neighbor before we purchased.
So did you learn enough working at the Intervale to just
start
in as
business?
Farmers? Can you talk about what it was like in the early days?
Yeah. Well, we grew into it. We started very slowly, so we didn't start out where we're at now. Currently, we have 8 acres of vegetables in production, and we have a 100-member CSA, and we sell at farmers market and the co-op, and we have a farm crew of about 5 people that work with us spring to fall, plus one of those workers includes a year-round farm manager who's been with us for 4 years. So we didn't get there right away. It's taken us a long time to grow into that. And in the beginning, I think when Spencer and I met, we both had a fair amount of farm experience working with other farmers, and Spencer had a lot of experience with mechanics. He's very mechanically inclined, so that was a huge asset for us, that we could own really inexpensive tractors, and Spencer would always be able to fix things and maintain things, and he's a builder, so he could build things. And we both had, strong skill sets. I had a pretty strong vision of community and how I wanted to connect with our customers and with our local schools. And so I think we both brought skill sets, and we had enough vegetable farm experience, and we shared a lot of the same values about how we wanted to grow food, and and we wanted to be organic, certified organic, but just being very mindful about the impact that we were having on growing vegetables on the farm, but also just in our community, being mindful of reaching people with our produce. And so we had a lot of experience growing the vegetables, and then we each brought, I think, a set of skills, and then I think we shared some similar values. So it's kind of a mix of all those things that I think has helped us to build momentum.
So I'm curious, in the relationship with the land trust property, you're obviously improving this farm dramatically as you go. Mm-hmm. What are the implications for you that the development rights have already been sold? Are you able to sell if you wanted to move to Maine or something?
We can sell for to another, like if another business wanted to take over, or we could sell to one of our children as we get younger. But I think the land trust, they have the first right of refusal, so I think they can become kind of active in seeking a buyer. I'm not sure exactly how all of that works. I mean, Spencer is really kind of, something he's kind of managed more than me, but but we don't feel that it is, we feel like this is where we want to be. We both grew up in Vermont. Our families are here, and I don't think that we have necessarily feel like one of our kids has to take over the farm. I mean, we would love that, but we're not raising our kids to specifically take over our farm. Which is a different mindset, I think, than a lot of dairy farm families I grew up in St. Albans with. I think those farms, there was definitely expectation that those dairy farms were going to stay in the families year after year after year, and it's very different being a first
just
generation.
A really interesting discussion on succession in those farms, and it's different.
It's very different.
You've raised 3 kids on the farm, is that
yes,
right?
Yes. We have Angus, who's 9. Ida is just about 7, and Mabel is 2.5.
And what's that like for you as a working mother, where you're working at home, but there's also farm equipment, and how do you balance all of that?
Oh, this is a topic I love to talk about, and I feel like I've become kind of a spokesperson for having the conversations of balancing parenting and farming and our roles and how they shift. And with each child, obviously it's more responsibility, and so my role continues to change as also our farm continues to grow. So it's kind of an interesting mix. In the beginning, when we just had Angus and the farm was small, Spencer and I were still doing a lot of the greenhouse work together and harvesting together and planting together, and Angus was just with us, but we were only planting, maybe 1.5 acres of vegetables at that point. And after I had Ida, I think we had grown to the point where I was really limited in what I could do to help, and Spencer couldn't keep up with how much we were trying to grow the business. So that's when we hired our first employee. Which changes the dynamic too of your farm, because then you've got other people kind of involved in your very personal space and life and business. Our roles have become pretty divided, and I manage our CSA, I do all of our marketing, I kind of promote any farm to school tours or educational activities that are going to happen on the farm. Spencer's become, very, very involved in the soil fertility and really, really understanding to, new levels, I think, of the importance of, taking care of the soil and fertility. So he's always, he's really evolving as a farmer in that way. And I think that things were really, really difficult right around the time we had Mabel, and having her was really the shift of like, wow, it really made us reassess our life, and realizing, I think, for Spencer, how important it was for him to really kind of ease off the farm a little bit and have more faith in the crew, and for me to figure out a way to become part of the aspects of the farm that maybe I'd let go of a little bit. So we're kind of in that transition now of Spencer like letting go of a little bit of the farm, and me trying to re-enter the farm in the ways that I'm really missing. And I think our kids are pretty involved with the farm. I mean, they love to go on truck rides. So after the crew leaves in the summertime, you know, Spencer generally still has to do work, but he kind of makes it fun for the kids. So he'll take them out to the field with the kids while he's running the irrigation, and maybe they're, you know, chopping up oversized zucchinis that they found that the crew had tossed aside, or, you know, they find fun things to do while Spencer's working. But they're definitely, especially Ida, she's very attached to the farm, and she loves to harvest cucumbers in particular. So, but yeah, just being outside with them, just being with them, you know. I can't get any work done with them when I'm outside, but just being with them out on the farm is really important.
So you had mentioned that you had this dream for the way the farm would relate to the community, and I'm wondering if you could talk more about that. People mention your name and Elmer Farm so often as, they support the schools, they support the preschools, they're fun to talk to. What was that dream, and how is it unfolding?
Well, I think that I think a lot about my own childhood and kind of reflect on my own experiences. And my parents divorced when I was pretty young, but my dad grew up on a subsistence farm where my grandparents, they worked in factories, but they also had an enormous garden, and they raised all their own meat kind of out of necessity. But I spent my summers on my grandmother's farm, and I loved it. And I knew then that I loved it, but I just assumed everybody loved it as much as me. And it took me until I was almost 30 to realize that that was a really special connection. And I just, in retrospect, realizing how much that has really shaped who I was, you know, spending time around animals and outside and picking fresh strawberries and learning to can from my grandmother as I was, you know, older. I want other people to have the opportunity, you know, to experience some of that. So whatever ways I can provide those opportunities. So sometimes it's just a short, farm tour where kids come and they're specifically going to harvest carrots to maybe bring back to their school. Or sometimes there's a gleaning project where a school has come to bring food to the food bank, the food shelf. So that's, I guess, a little bit of where it probably comes from, is just that sense of wanting the opportunity for kids to connect to outside and where their food comes
Just
from.
been reading Wendell Berry, and you sound exactly like what is nostalgia for communities that really work because they're connected with
and I
farms.
think Spencer and I are both very generous people, and I think that generosity, I just feel like it's just really important, because I feel like you're operating from a sense of fullness and rather than emptiness, and so you don't hold on tight to what you have, but you're willing to give. And I think people really sense that, and they sense that with the energy that we put into our CSA or at Farmers Market, of whether it's helping someone navigate a purchase or how to cook something, or
could you, for people that missed the other show that you did with Aaron and Mike, could you just say a little bit more about your CSA and sort of party time once a week when people come to your farm?
Yes, so our CSA takes place on our farm on Wednesdays, so one day a week for 20 weeks of the year, starting in mid-June to the end of October. Members have an opportunity to purchase what we also call a farm membership, because CSA can be kind of an abstract name. I mean, it stands for Community Supported Agriculture, but it's kind of a CSA is, not everybody knows what that means. So we also call it a farm membership. So people can sign up to be a member of the farm, where they either pay in full or pay in installments for a full 20 weeks worth of vegetables. And then they come to the farm once a week from 12:30 to 6:30 on Wednesdays. And we set up we have a kind of like a farm stand that is set up very similar to farmers markets. There's not vegetables in boxes or anything. Everything is kind of laid out, and we generally group our vegetables into about 5 groups, and members can have choice from each of the groups of what they're going to put in their share. So people spend time contemplating what they're going to take, and sometimes people never try anything new. They don't want to, and that's totally fine, and that's why we have the choice. Sometimes people have their own gardens, and so they like to supplement with things that they're not growing. Or sometimes we just have things earlier than maybe some of our ripped-in CSA members that have a little bit shorter growing season. So people are getting their vegetables and they're spending time doing that. We also have a flower garden where members can pick flowers and fresh herbs. We have a sand pile. Kids are playing. So people are spending time. There's a sense of kind of community, and that doesn't work for everybody. We know that. We know that people are busy. In most cases, both parents, if families are with two parents in the home or two partners in the home, they're working, and so time is really limited. So going to CSA pickup and then getting drawn into the kids playing and picking flowers and can be an added task that is and makes people feel like obligated. It's hard. We try to alleviate a little bit of that by letting people come and do their picking any day of the week. They can pick one day a week. They don't have to tell us when they're coming. So that's something that can be maybe a weekend activity with a friend visiting, or with kids, or if the weather's better, if it's too hot, they want to come when it's cooler. So we try to give people the flexibility to come another time so they're not missing out on their pick your own items. And then people have the opportunity to purchase other products from local farmers. We have meat from another farm, and we have bread, local bread, and maple syrup that one of our CSA members produces. So it's a nice gathering.
Yeah. So your facilities must be huge. You've mentioned greenhouses. You've mentioned 8 acres of vegetables. How do you store all this stuff? Do you need barns for your tractors?
That's a great question. So we do have one heated greenhouse that we're pretty much at maximum capacity. We really make the most use of that, and actually we're extending it by 12 feet this year to give us a little bit more room in our heated greenhouse. So that's where we start all of our seeds. Today we started our tomatoes just today. Wow. And then
it's not quite town meeting day, right?
Not quite. And so and then we have 2 tunnels which don't have heat, but they're covered, that we rotate crops. Sometimes we do winter greens. Sometimes we always do tomatoes in one of the houses, but we'll do some early spring crops, radishes and baby bok choy and scallions. So we kind of grow a mix of items in there for season extension, but then also like tomatoes that just do really well. We grow them in the field also, but it's nice to have some that you kind of have more of a guarantee that they're going to do well. And what else was the storage? Yes. So the storage, that winter market has become probably one of our biggest areas of where we're growing our market. So just having the capacity to store things through the winter time and then distribute them has become really important on our farm. So we grow a lot of carrots. It's probably the number one vegetable that people associate our farm with is carrots. People really like our carrots, and we got lucky. We just have really nice soils for carrots. So having the infrastructure to build that we've built for storage has been really important. So that's a new project that we took on pretty much right when Mabel was born. I think, that literally the day Mabel was born, the foundation was like maybe the excavator showed up. I'm not sure, but it all kind of happened at once of you kind of needing to move to that next step to store it. Not just carrots, but beets and onions and cabbage and other root crops.
Do you have animals as well, or
no?
You just have relationships with other farms?
Yeah, we just have relationships with other farms. We also, we're talking about community and how important that is. We also have this really amazing crew, which we feel is we feel very connected to, and trying to provide them opportunities. So we had one person on our crew last year who raised 8 lamb, and he did 200 meat birds over the season. It was his second year with us. So we had, not that we were raising it, but we had someone on our crew. So we did have some animals on Elmer Farm last year. And then we have had anywhere between 15 and 50 laying hens. And we're trying to figure out what the right number of laying hens is to have eggs enough for us and the crew, but then also to sell. And so we haven't quite figured out the right number yet. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for on our farm. So.
Does the crew live with you?
No, no.
So how do you find?
We have been really
labor?
lucky, and I think our biggest success is that people have found us that are already living in Middlebury. So they already have a place where they're living, they already have friendships and relationships, and they already are invested in being in Middlebury and like Middlebury. So it's kind of nice when people come on to work at the farm. You know, there's a greater chance that they're going to stay around, and the people that have found us, it's been interesting. I feel like as we've gotten more, as we've grown, our workers have become more serious. Like the people who come to us are more serious about agriculture and learning, which has been really nice because I think Spencer really enjoys that. He enjoys being in that educator role, and I think he really is very generous with his knowledge and helping other people to succeed in their own ventures when they leave Elmer Farm. So yeah, people have just kind of come to us and they stay. We have someone this year who's been with us our 5th year, and two people their 3rd year, some in their 2nd year, and we've got one new person joining us. So it's nice.
Do you also host woofers on your farm?
We don't.
You don't?
We don't. Okay. We really don't do much short term. We don't do apprenticeships right now. We don't have woofers. We don't do the work trade for CSAs, like working members. Right now, it is working really well.
Works well.
And we have, it's hard to find the balance of wanting to provide people opportunities to kind of learn and be on your farm, but also just that being at a commercial production level of just really getting things done and having really efficient systems where our crew is kind of, they all know the flow of how it works, and it's hard to slow down to do the education piece sometimes.
But I think you've also been part of the Farmer Correspondence Program.
I have done that. Yes, that has been really fun, the letter writing with the school. And I've written to different ages over the years, and sometimes I get lots of letters back and sometimes I don't, and it doesn't really matter to me. I like sending in letters to the classroom, and sometimes I'll send in a couple seed catalogs and encourage them to make collages out of them, kind of cut out the pictures they like, or I like.
And you've hosted workshops on your farm for preschool teachers?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we started a little farm to preschool when I was pregnant with Mabel, and we kind of had a group of us from various preschools and home care providers. We did a little training, which was really fun. Nice. And yeah, that age is really, it's such a fun age because they're so curious. And it's hard for me because, I don't have a lot of experience in education with kids that are older than the ages that my kids are. Yeah. So it's been harder for me in the past to kind of plan for what to do with older kids, but when my kids were little, I knew what excited them. Right. So it was easier. So as my kids get older, I can see how you can engage kids at different ages.
Are you thinking that you might be part of the Open Farm Week this year?
I don't know. We haven't done it in the past. The timing is always kind of tough for us, and also I think our CSA is so full, and I hate to draw people in and then have to turn people away. And I don't know. I want to have a way to have people at the farm, but I also it's a hard.
Well, we're running out of time. Yes, I'm so sorry. I would love to talk to you more. Are there things that you would like to say or to mention that I didn't ask?
No, I mean, we feel so thankful to be in Middlebury. We have a lot of support from the community, and I think part of that was the Land Trust, going through that program where there were people in the community that helped the Land Trust select a buyer. So
that was called the
Farmland Access Program. So we just feel really thankful to be in Vermont, close to our other, our extended families, but then to be here where, in this community where there's a lot of support and we're having fun.
Well, good. I'm so glad. Yes. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. So, and thank you all for watching us today. It's really been wonderful to talk with Jennifer Blackwell of the Elmer Farm, and her contact information will come up in just a minute. I also wanted to mention to people that we're recording this at the Middlebury Community Television Station, and they are also wonderful people in the community to work with. If you have information you want to get out to the public, give them a call and they'll help you to put together a show. Thanks again for joining us.